Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Delighted to see so many people in our attendee list. We are really thrilled to have you here. We're going to be taking a look at property data feeds, what brokers want you to know. And with that, I would love to introduce my co-panelists. Many of you already know Stevie Field-Chavez, our VP of Sales from GIS Planning. Hello, Stevie.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Very good. And we are thrilled to have with us today Henry Moore, the co-founder and CEO of Resimplify. Hello, Henry.
Hey, Elisa.
We are so excited to be talking about this. This is a big question. It is a lot of our clients come to us and they say, what are we going to do about our property data? We have lots of questions. And one of the things that I've noticed over time as I work with clients individually to help them with the marketing, launch, and promotion of their site is that many of them don't fully exploit or know how to build great rapport on their relationships with broker community in their area. So this is a really, really significant property. We're all interested in seeing location decisions and properties and projects being developed in our region. So how do we do that well, and how do we make sense of that? So what I'm going to do, Henry, is I'm going to pass the presenter role over to you, and you can take us through what you've got. Then I know Stevie has some words, and then we'll take some questions.
Great.
And we're just going to turn off our cameras while the presentation's happening, but we'll come back on again when we take your questions at the end. So for now, I'm just going to turn that off.
Great. Well, thank you, Elisa, and thanks to the folks at GIS Planning for having me. Additionally, thank all of you guys for providing me the opportunity to speak with you today about property data. Let me go ahead and, Elisa, I'm assuming you can see my screen, see the PowerPoint?
Yep, that's perfect.
Yeah, so again, I'm Henry Moore. I work with Resimplify, and we collect and manage property data for economic development offices across the country. Today, I'm going to be speaking specifically with you about not only broker engagement, but commercial property data options. A lot of this is going to be old hat for you guys, but hopefully some insightful information comes out of the presentation. So we'll start with examples of site selection data. Some of you are researching and managing the data yourself. Some of you are reliant upon your local brokerage communities to enter the data on your site selection tools. Others are partnered with local cities, counties, utility providers, etc. And bullet number 4 is really where we're going to kind of hunker down and spend a little bit of time. This is marketplace data. So licensed or syndicated data from a third-party provider. I created 3 points of differentiation here. So you have local and regional marketplaces. This would be a local MLS or local brokerage association. National marketplaces, past examples would be Xceligent and Real Massive. Those seem to be 2 that specifically focus on economic development as a secondary line of business. And then the third is an economic development office property data provider. Resimplify would fall in that category. And the primary difference between B and C is that economic development is our primary focus, and a national marketplace traditionally has been principally focused on commercial real estate brokerage, serving economic development offices as a secondary line of business. So property marketplace data. So property marketplace and research applications have different intended uses. So the marketplace, if you think about what their intended value is, they're serving commercial real estate brokers with the intention of providing leads. I'm going to send this deck. This deck's going to be made available to all of you guys. I'm not going to read each and every bullet, but I would like to focus specifically on bullet number 5. So no incentive to broker for complete or accurate data. So we get a lot of feedback regarding certain fields missing. Let's say on an industrial property listing, a field may be missing clear height, for example, or rail provider, or concrete thickness. And we get asked by our economic development clients, why is this happening? The other question that we get quite frequently is listings that have transacted or otherwise expired that are still being provided to their local economic development office. So if you think about the intention of a marketplace, and that intention being creating leads for the commercial real estate broker, the broker's not incentivized to provide accurate data. In other words, if he puts enough data online and it generates prospect to call him and ask him what the clear height is on that property, the marketplace is delivering on its intended value. Additionally, old listings. If brokers specialize in industrial properties in a certain geography, for example, and they have an active listing, they're not incentivized to take that listing down. Certainly if that listing is creating leads for them where they could say, prospect, thanks for your call. That property is recently transacted, but I have other listings that are very similar to that. So just the point of this slide is only to delineate the intention of marketplaces, and that we're taking data that has been built and collected for a different purpose than research. So marketplace data is a viable baseline option. It's a great place to start. My company starts with marketplace data. So we're not here to say that that's not where we should start. Rather, how do we take that data and make it better? So recognizing that this data may have some holes, we think it's important that someone audits the data on a routine basis, monthly, quarterly, whatever makes the most sense for your company. This can happen internally, or you can hire a third party company such as ours to take a look at this data and make sure that it is complete and it is accurate. Bullet number 2, consider multiple data feeds if providers not offering complete market coverage. Large trade areas may cover multiple geographies. Associations, for example, may not have complete coverage. So it makes sense, obviously, to partner with more than one association in that example. But the other thing to consider is when you're looking at a local association or participating with a local association, try to get an understanding of what companies actually participate with that commercial real estate association. And if a certain company is missing, obviously reach out to the company and make sure that you're completing your data. But don't assume that an association has complete coverage of any one specific market. Access and review data before licensing to see if pertinent fields are commonplace. So in the industrial property example that I provided earlier, if clear height is something that's important to you and you're licensing the data from a third party, take a look at the data and just make sure that that information is being offered. If it's not, and in many circumstances it's not, just know that you're going to have to investigate those properties, research those properties to fill in the gaps. Lastly, consider use of a third party to manage and collect the data. Again, this is what our company does. The primary difference here for us, again, is we serve economic development offices as our primary focus, which enables us to capture our clients' target market completely, rather than selling them subscription data or data from our subscribers to our platform. So again, we go into market, we'll capture the entire market with the idea of servicing our economic development client, not the commercial real estate subscriber. And engage the local brokerage community. I am going to jump back to bullet number 5 in a second and just give you guys an idea of what an audit looks like. Sorry, Elisa, it's not letting me escape, so let me see if I can.
That's all right.
No worries. I'll just put it up over here. There we go. All right, so this is an example of what we call an initial data review or an audit, where we took a look at one of our clients. This is a hypothetical. So we anonymized the data and created Smith County. Smith County is not a real place. But we took a look at the data that was published on a site selection application. In this example, there was 167 properties that were published as available for sale or lease, of which 33 were active, 134 were off the market, and 78 were incomplete. This is, believe it or not, a pretty fair example of what we see. We typically see, you know, it just dependent on the market, but we do see 20% properties that are currently active. That's not terribly uncommon. Up to about 60%. Incomplete would be missing that pertinent field that I mentioned earlier, or missing an image, something like that. And then we take a look at the active market review. So what's happening outside the client's website? So how many listings are published for sale or for lease within a specific market? What properties are not being shared with the economic development office? The active brokerage companies and the brokers that are actually participating within the market. So this is the initial audit or the initial data review, and then we update this on a monthly basis, just again to try to make sure the data is accurate and complete. And the last thing we're gonna talk about is engaging the local brokerage community. I do have a commercial real estate brokerage background, and I can't speak specifically to some of these points. So I know that listing a broker as a primary contact doesn't always happen. A lot of economic development offices will list one of their officers or research directors as a primary contact. It makes sense to include the commercial real estate broker. It certainly provides an opportunity to say he's an important member of your team. And it's something that's very easy to do. Promoting transactions is something that is also a pretty easy thing to do. So if you know that a property has transacted within your community, it's very easy to share it on social media. LinkedIn is probably the best platform to use, but in our application, it's one click of a button. It takes about 30 seconds. The third point, make it easy, little to no administrative effort. Brokers have very little administrative time, and they have lots of different marketplace applications that they're trying to manage. Typically, their administrative assistants or support teams are shared among several individuals on that team. So it's hard for them to be performing data entry and or managing listings. It's not that they're lazy, it's that they're typically 1099 employees, they're focused on selling, and they just don't have a lot of time to manage databases or different online applications. So make it easy, say, to the participating brokers, monitor their websites. If you see properties have been removed, follow up with them. Tell them all they need to do is send you a flyer, or again, you can hire a company like ours to do that for you. But the point here is that they are managing multiple applications. They just don't have a lot of desk time. The last point that I wanted to make is recognize and celebrate market leaders. So our company has worked with a couple of local economic development offices recently where we created an awards program. This can happen on a quarterly basis or an annual basis where you simply recognize those that are performant in your area. We call it market leaders, but you guys could call it whatever you want. You could have an annual lunch, whatever program makes sense to you, but it's a great way to recognize those that are driving industry within your market and to connect with them. Ultimately, what's going to happen is they're going to see you guys as an additional distribution channel, and they're going to see leads that are coming from they're being celebrated within your community. Key takeaways: there are multiple sources of property data for site selection applications, but marketplace data is different than research data. Again, it's a great place to start. Just make sure that you're taking the time to convert that data from its intended use to research. Brokers are excellent resources for maintaining data quality, and it makes sense to align your strategies with theirs. There's different things that you can do, some of which are very easy, like celebrating their wins online. Others require a little more effort, like an awards program. Companies like mine obviously can collect data, aggregate data, provide you the type of information that can help you celebrate those guys. But just make sure that you have strategies in place that will align your interests with theirs. Outside of that, I really appreciate the time here today. Please feel free to contact me at any point in time. I'd be more than happy to share this deck with you. This is my cell phone number as well. But thanks again to GIS Planning. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Henry, thank you so much. I've seen actually quite a few questions come in for you. I'm going to hold those just as Stevie makes a presentation here to address some of the things that you were talking about and add some additional information. And then from there, we'll take a look at the questions. Just a reminder to everyone, we invite you to add questions in the questions field in the control panel on the right. Stevie,
Very good. Oh, Henry, that was such good information, and it was so helpful, and it was so right on point. With just engaging your local brokers and, I love the awards program, the market leaders program. So for the attendees today, I am a former economic developer. I've worked with GIS planning now for 10 or 11 years. And I remember working with my brokers when I was a client of GIS planning about 21 years ago, and they were my rock stars. We would have a quarterly meeting, and we would we do exactly what Henry said, which makes me feel just so actually validated, is to celebrate the brokers that had a lot of traffic at their on their properties and any success stories that came out of that. I, as an economic developer, would share what we've been doing to promote our site that actually lists their available properties. So there was a lot of real great back and forth kind of engagement. I did want to take a minute and kind of go over one of our shared clients that GIS planning built this application for the city of Columbia here in South Carolina, and we worked with Henry's company Resimplify on getting the properties in the system. As a former client, I will tell you that that is probably the biggest question that Elisa and I are asked, is how do you get properties into the system? A company like Henry's is absolutely awesome because it alleviates the pain point of having to manage any type of system. I just want to show you a little bit about how the application works and what the properties and property cards look like. So you can search a property based on a city, county, region. It's completely your geography, sites and buildings, sale, lease, and various types of property, as well as freehand draw, because maybe you don't know the city or the county that you want to be in. A lot of times, as we know in economic development, it doesn't typically matter to the company. They'll go where the incentives are and the right building or site would be located. That allows them to go over multiple jurisdictions to find that property. And you can also save properties or do a search by various filters, such as I need a property in an opportunity zone, and we're just gonna call this project SC, just for South Carolina, and add a folder so I can save properties to this folder. Here we go. So there's multiple ways to search for a property, and anytime you can save properties and send those to a potential prospect is always super helpful. What I really wanted to show you was just what one of these properties and property cards look like, so you can see how detailed the information is that we're getting with Resimplify. So we have a complete and total description of the property that goes into all of the specifics, as well as various photos. I believe, and Henry, correct me if I'm wrong, drone imagery and videos, can those also be fed into the system?
Yes.
Very good. So that makes it even just easier for the economic development professional. Various property details that Henry's team has been able to gather, and the broker has, can be entered. And for our clients, we can always auto-populate different fields. So for instance, information, of course, like city and county, but maybe you have one water provider or one gas provider or a couple of utility providers. We can always create a drop-down menu for that. But you can see that there's a lot of information on the property card, and then you get down into contacts and you have the broker contact. And I think that's so important. As a former client, I would always list my broker as one of the contacts. We can include broker contact information, including their logo. We can also include your contact information and other points of contact on any property card. And I think that's important because that gives multiple points for the prospect to reach out to. And let's be honest, we're not in the business of leasing and selling land. We want to create attention to those pieces of property, but it's the broker who's actually going to work that deal. And so having them be that being contact, I really think kind of lends to more success with not only the brokers using the application and entering their properties or getting their properties to a company like Resimplify, but also just being more engaged in what the application brings in total. You're always there to answer questions, of course, and I usually found that with a system like this, by the time my phone rang, people had a pretty good idea of some of the properties they wanted to go visit. I just would ask my brokers that they would communicate with me any success stories that they've had or any tours that they've maybe done during our quarterly meetings, so we can not only celebrate those wins, but so I knew the system was working and I knew that the efforts that I was making was working. So Henry, I do have a couple of questions about what do you think about brokers using systems like these? What's your experience been with not only what you're doing with Resimplify, but in your broker life? Were applications like these something that you would participate in and kind of got excited about?
Without question, yeah. And the answer to that question is a little bit dependent on property type, and the property type that's covered is frankly dependent on what the economic development office's strategy is. So industrial and office, without question, taking a look at it, certainly if you're representing larger clients or working with an independent site selector, those guys are going to absolutely be reliant upon workforce data, and it makes sense, for the brokers obviously to be able to be informed when they have those conversations. So without question, also tools are getting smarter and smarter, and we've seen a shift from not too long ago. Mostly industrial properties is what we were seeing being showcased, to now retail and smaller office properties where buyers are becoming more informed and more interested. Restaurants being a great example of what does the community look like. So yeah, brokers are becoming more and more reliant upon these tools outside of, again, the traditional audience of just industrial brokers.
Awesome. I think that's so important because it just validates that, in economic development, tools like this are justified and they're actually doing what we want them to do. So City of Columbia is a great example. I believe you can go to choosecolumbia.com and they have it under a tab of site selection that will get you to the application. I think this is their homepage here. So choosecolumbia.com, you can go to site selection. That'll take you to the GIS application so you can kind of poke around and just see a little bit about what they did. So when you have the property fed into the application, we provide all of the other data. You don't need to worry about that. That's all automatically pushed out to you in your application. So it's not only complete, but you have information like demographic, labor force, consumer expenditures, wage and salary, the business data, which will actually tell you the type of business within a user entered radius, and not only the type, but the name of the business and where they're located. We'll take a peek at that real quick. Henry, in your experience of being a broker, were sites like this helpful in terms of just gathering information for clients that you worked with?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So anything that is kind of a single source of truth, or can provide a one-stop shop per se, where you can gather all of the different points that you use to make a decision without question. And being able to not only access that data, but know that the economic development officer that you're working with is looking at the same data you are, is also extremely helpful. So if you guys are going to different sources, it just makes the communication process more difficult. So as a broker, we always try to use the site selection tool that was being provided in the area that we were interested in. And ideally, that information isn't complete. I mean, it's complete. So if we can sing from the same piece of music per se, that was always a major plus for us.
Oh, great. We love to hear that. So we are also asked here at GIS Planning, are there other ways to get properties in the system? And the answer is yes. And you can marry all of these examples or all of these ways together with a company like Resimplify. So you can have properties fed into the system, and then maybe you have a couple of local landowners that have one or two pieces of property or one or two buildings, and they're maybe just wanting to enter the properties in themselves. We can always create an add properties button so we can get that information in, and they can actually create an account and add the information themselves. Henry, a couple of questions just about Resimplify and quality control, because I know that's a really big issue right now. There's a couple big gorillas out there, and it's super, super important that any properties in an economic development system has the right to be there. Can you kind of, without of course mentioning names, can you talk a little bit about just quality control?
Yeah, thank you. That is extremely big deal, and frankly, one of the things that differentiates what we do, I think, from other companies. So there is a human component to what we do. Quality control is not automated. So we do have data extraction tools, and I'd start by saying that it's important that we err on the side of being conservative in that we're not going to pick up anything that's not public. So we start with our data collection process, and if a piece of data has a restrictive terms of service, we are going to note that and provide that a level of detail to our economic development client so they know, and there's just not a void of information. So in our monthly report, we'll delineate those properties that are deemed private and then essentially we'll ask for permission to gather the information on the Economic Development Office's behalf. Occasionally they'll instruct us not to. We have had circumstances where they said, leave our brokerage alone, they're being harassed enough. We have great relationships where we can meet with them at a lunch, et cetera, a luncheon, et cetera. But for the most part, if a property is deemed private, we'll report back to the Economic Development Office, and then we'll call that brokerage company and ask for their permission, and they'll send us flyers. Brokers see their local economic development office as their partner, and again, creates additional distribution for them. So they want to work with you guys. So we've yet to have any instance where a broker did not want to participate and or work with their local economic development office.
Awesome, awesome. Now, how do you handle working in areas where your company hasn't actually worked before, or it maybe isn't a company like yours that has been there before? Are you able to work in areas where maybe you don't have properties already gathered?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so we're not a national marketplace. So I pointed out 2 companies in my slide deck intentionally, Real Massive and Intelligent, because we get a lot of questions about, how are we going to make sure the same thing doesn't happen to you guys that happened to those 2 companies? And our business is our business model is frankly the exact opposite of theirs. So rather than trying to compete with large national marketplaces or research platforms, we're a bespoke provider of commercial real estate data in select markets. So we go into select markets with the intention of serving that economic development office, as our primary client. So we would go in and we would collect the data and then manage it with the intention of building a comprehensive real estate database over a period of time. That's very different than trying to compete nationally in every single market across the U.S. with expensive marketing and SEO efforts. So that enables us to manage our costs, to scale, to our growth, and it also enables us to serve our economic development client completely, where they have us as accountable partners that can provide them transparent data that's accurate and complete.
Now, what do you do to ensure quality control? Did we talk about that?
Yeah, so specifically, our technology plugs into participating commercial real estate offices websites, and once we do that, we're able to track any changes to online listings. If a listing is removed from being available, we will follow up and figure out if that property is actually transacted or whether the listing is just expired and been taken off the market. And that enables us to QC the quality of properties being actually available or not. And as it relates to pertinent details, missing fields, things like that, our team of analysts works with the local participating commercial real estate brokers to follow up and get the missing pieces of information. I think it would be unrealistic to say that we're going to get 100% of any market, but we strive for the most coverage possible. But with dynamic real estate, it's again, I think it's unrealistic to say that we're going to get everything, but we work very hard to get as much as we possibly can, and the data certainly gets much better over time. Typically, it takes us about 90 days to get about 75% completion. At that point, the data is already online and published, and as the brokers become more and more familiar with us working with their local economic development office, and as we manage that data, it gets better and better. So the quality, we think, starts at a very good place, but only gets better as the market matures with us.
I love that you mentioned that. So it takes about 90 days for some, a pretty good percentage of completion on terms of properties. Is that what I understood?
Mm-hmm.
Good. That's good because, we can get the GIS application up and running quickly in that time period while you're gathering information. Some information I know will come through, but as an economic development organization, you can always add properties yourselves. We can transfer that information over. Again, brokers can enter properties in on their own. And then, of course, with that data feed, kind of eliminating that pain point, I think that just makes a really complete system. By then, you've got it all.
Yeah, and if I may, Stevie, So
Sure.
our initial data review, we serve, so if a company, if a economic development office has properties currently published online, we're going to take a look at that data. We're going to audit it, and then I shared with you that report earlier, and deliver those results within 45 days. So that's where we start. So 45 days, you're going to have data online, and then we manage what's not included on that website over the next 45 days for a total of 90 days. So after about 45 days, we're able to give you, our client, an overview of the market. And then again, after an additional 45 days, we've captured 75, 80% of the market that exists outside of what was traditionally published on the website.
Very good. Very good. Elisa, in your marketing experience, what have you noticed is a great way to get that broker engagement on applications?
Well, that's a really good question, Stevie. I think one of the first things that I always try to do with clients is underscore how important it is to engage area brokers and develop a strong relationship with them. I think, as Henry said, we want to make sure that we're not reassure the brokers, we're not giving them extra work to do. We're trying to drive more qualified traffic their way. So I do think that if that isn't already a strong relationship, there's steps that can be taken to strengthen it and show that everyone's kind of working together with the same end goal in mind. Sometimes brokers, I think, maybe are a little concerned that economic developers might get in the way. So making sure they understand that it is a collaborative relationship is really important. Having the broker form directly embedded into the property is really just best practice, because the brokers then feel reassured that traffic is going to come to them. As I think you showed, Stevie, we can add a second contact, so the economic development contact is still there on a property report, so that that's not left out either. And then just so the brokers can see the value of having all of that additional data around the tool. So if they're working with a prospective buyer or someone who's looking to lease any kind of space, they can quickly do their due diligence and help inform the prospect. It shortens the sales process. It makes for more happy, satisfied clients at the end of the day, because they understand better what they've got and they feel more informed and they understand what they're investing in. The other thing that I think it's really important to show brokers is the power of the share button, so that they understand that from the Zoom Prospector tool, whether they're in the compare communities like you're showing there, or on a property report, or in an analysis around a property, that they can click that one link and grab the unique URL. They can share it in social media, put it in their email newsletters going out to prospects and clients. They can share directly to social media. And the value of that, as opposed to a static PDF, is critical, because you're now bringing people back directly to the website with the property to continue their analysis. And we've just seen that shortens the sales process over time, that it again just makes for more informed and, in the end, more satisfied clients and brokers at the end of the day. And that's pretty much what any economic developer is looking for, right?
I think that's so important. That share button is our magic, honestly. It just, for anyone who's on the call, all of our economic development folks here, to be able to copy this code, I always suggest renaming that code, but embedding this in an email, an electronic newsletter, social media, online, on your website. You could create a button with a link like this behind that will take the user who clicks on this share button directly into this page live into the GIS application, which is saying, hey, these, dear prospect, these two properties I think are perfect for what you're looking for, and so take a look at them. So not only do I have exactly the two properties you want your prospect to see, but I can look at the property card details and find out all of the information about this property, as well as going right back to broker contact information, and then all of the supporting data that just helps me justify this decision as it being maybe the right place that I want to consider, and go around, kick a little dirt, or just kind of go check out the community myself. So I think that's super. That share button is so important.
It
Henry,
really is.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, I just want to say it really is, because I think once they see, the average, I don't know about many of you, but if you're looking to buy, I don't know, a car, or I don't know, just a restaurant that you're looking to order in from, we go online, we look at reviews, we're asking for information about the things that we're buying and we're investing in. Imagine making a multi-million-dollar business decision. You just need to have that data around you. So putting that in the hands of the brokers and their clients just makes good sense.
I totally agree. Henry, I have another question. If on your end, is it possible to attach different documents with properties, or is that done on the GIS planning side? I actually don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, no, it is. It's certainly possible. You can we have drag and drop interface. We'll collect documents on our behalf, on our client's behalf. So some of our participating brokers become very engaged once they know what we're up to within in a local community, and they like to update information, and so they can do it on our site. I'm pretty confident they can also do it on yours, but it's just whatever is more appealing to them. And then we also do that too. So there's some brokers that simply say, hey, here's my updated flyer, you guys upload it for us, and we're happy to do that also.
Very good. Yeah, I know on our end too, you can attach different documents, but understanding that our broker community also has different flyers or different attachments that may go with a company or a property, it's always important that we get all of the information that we can to transfer over. Again, this takes it out of the worry or the things to do from the economic development professional. So it's kind of automatically handled for you. So your application is populated, but we always have that add properties button, and we can work with broker firms as well. So if there's, as Henry mentioned, an administrative assistant or a marketing assistant, a lot of those brokers share these one or two individuals. We can create what we call second tier admin levels, so those people can enter in property information from multiple agents. And then I have no doubt that Henry, especially on a property feed situation, can capture that information. And what can you tell us about the importance of watermarked photos? So for any of our economic developers here who have a system like this already, doing their own quality control can take a lot of time, but it's something you probably need to watch out for. How are you able to tell if there's a watermark on a photo, or do you just have to hope for the best?
Yeah, great question again. So again, this is something else that we believe is a differentiator for us versus anyone else. So our technology enables us to compare any photograph to any other photograph that's been published online. So if it's been published online, we're notified, and then we do our homework to make sure that it is a publicly available image. And your question about watermarking is actually very thoughtful, and something that many people may not understand. Brokers in the past, there have been instances where watermarks have been cropped out of an image. And so our technology has the ability to pick up those images as private. But that's one of the things that again, we pride ourselves on, that differentiates us from other companies, is we have the ability to kind of pay attention to that. But absolutely, I think watermarked images, have a history in our space of causing trouble, and I would definitely, make sure that images are public. And then the last thing I would mention on that is Google images are available and great, and if an image is not available to us or we deem it to be private, we default to Google either Street View or Aerial, and we will use a human being, an analyst, not to make sure that image is attractive. So we'll use Google to take an attractive aerial, for example. But really great question, Stevie. Thank you.
That's so important for the attendees on the call. There are some the big gorillas of companies out there, and no one wants to get a cease and desist letter in the mail or threaten of legal action if there are photos on your site that have been where the watermark image has been cropped, and you wouldn't even know it, but if they knew it, that could create a little bit of legal trouble. So you want to make sure that, of course, those aren't on your site already, and that if you have a company like Henry's, that they got that due diligence in place and that quality control in place to make sure that you're protected. Super important. That'll be, yeah, that's mail you don't want. Elisa, do we have any questions?
We do have some other questions. We have, Chris asks, can Henry conduct a review for an EDO that shows what we're missing in a county? I'm guessing yes, but roughly what would that cost? Getting properties listed is proving to be a challenge. We find properties on the MLS, IDX, etc., but don't yet have feeds connected to our new site.
Chris, please call me. I'd love to talk with you in more detail. Our pricing typically is based on population. That's not always the most perfect indicator, but usually is where we start. So that's where we begin. As it relates to an audit, yeah, absolutely. So if you have, in your circumstance, it sounds like you do not, but if you have listings that are published online, our first step is going to be to take a look at that and audit that information. If you do not, we survey what we call the active market and provide that information to you. We then collect that data and then manage it. It's dynamic, it changes over time. We manage it on a continuous basis over the term of your subscription with us. So yes, absolutely, that's what we do. And if you're interested in talking with me further, I'd love to have a conversation.
So Henry's email address will be included in the follow-up email that everyone's going to get after today's webinar. So you will be able to get in touch with Henry. I have another question. If I'm in a small rural community but need your services, can you work with me? Can you work with small rural communities, I guess, in which many properties are for sale, but they're for sale by the owners directly and not by brokers?
So is that for me? Lisa,
yeah, that sounds like a question for you.
Yeah. So yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I think that's where we're seeing a ton of growth with site selection applications. Yeah, we work in a ton of rural communities. Yeah, absolutely. Process is still the same. Pricing is going to reflect that it's a smaller community, but we would manage that data for you just like we would a larger area.
Okay, and then I've got a flip side question for you, which is, we're from a major city. Can you handle the amount of brokers and broker interactions we'll need?
Yeah, so a little bit of a background on our company. We initially built a marketplace for my hometown, and that was based on interest from the local broker in charge there. After that, we got involved in economic development based on our local economic development office reaching out to brokers and asking to loading listings on the site. The community is about 500,000 people. We intentionally stayed in our home state for about a year to really iron out our technology. We slowly started to grow contiguously outside of my home state, but now we're serving tertiary, secondary, and some primary markets in the United States. Our technology has been tested for almost a full year now. We have references, contacts across the country, and if you're interested in working with us, I'd be more than happy to connect you with those individuals.
Great, and I just want to add, because I know we have some people attending here from other places around the world outside of the US, just to say that we do have clients all over the world, and if you're interested in adding property data feeds, we'll work with you to see what we can source in whatever country or location you're actually in. So yeah. And there are some other questions. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. So what I'm going to do is everyone's going to be able to contact Henry directly, or Stevie. There's following this, there's some questions for you too, Stevie. The one last question that I can answer is someone said, can we receive copies of the presentation slides that Henry showed? And Henry, with your permission, I'd like to include a link to those as well.
Of course.
Well, that brings us to the end of our time. My goodness, this was really good. We're so thrilled to see so many people joining us for all of this information. We are going to be posting this on our Vimeo and YouTube channels. As always, it will be on our website as well. You will get a link by tomorrow with the link to the video. Henry, thank you so much for joining us. So we look forward to maybe doing some more of these with you. There's obviously a lot of great questions and a lot of information that people can benefit from.
No, sincerely thank all of you who are in attendance for providing me the opportunity to tell our story. We'd love to have additional conversations with you if you're interested in learning more about us. Lisa, Stevie, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support and partnership. It means a great deal to us. So thanks for providing me the opportunity to talk with you guys today.
It is our pleasure. We're very happy to be partnering with Resimplify. And Stevie, thank you very much for your tour. And thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy days.
Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day. Take care.
Thanks again. Take care.